streaming. Okay, that should be working. Okay, welcome everyone to a Toku Portal podcast. It's me, Zero, here. Unfortunately, again, just solo because Vashi had something come up last minute, which is fine. And, you know, Rai's usually busy on Wednesdays nowadays, so luckily he was there last week, but, you know, unlikely he'll show up this week. So it's just me, which sucks. What doesn't suck, though, it was episode 11 of Kamen Rider Saber. It's another good episode. I mean, it's part 1, so it's kind of setting stuff up, but actually pretty damn solid. I mean, last week's wasn't bad either. It's just Ryan Vashi kind of took the time to explain why they were feeling that Saber was off, so it may have seemed like a more negative episode when we were talking about it, but no, that was okay. This is pretty solid. But yeah, it's only me here, which is fine. It's not a big deal. But back to Saber. Give me one moment. Sorry, so many screens going at once. Right, so this episode, what happens is essentially, well, it begins with like Toma sort of worrying about Kento, but then Mei just says, like, if you're worried about your friend, why don't you just go, you know, like tell him, or like, you know, help him out or whatever, which is a good point. And she also points out that, like, you know, like the 4 of them made the vow, so like, yeah, again, she's gonna be important. You can't just cast her aside, which is good. But they go to the hideout, or I guess the base, and then they find that like Rentaro and Kento are fighting because Kento basically wants to go after the current caliber, because, you know, to clear his father's name or figure out what the hell's going on. But Rentaro says, like, you know, you're not really a swordsman if you're just doing it for your personal stuff. And then he just tells Kento to, like, hand in his, like, driver, essentially, because he's making it too personal. And then Kento's like, okay, fine, if once I'm done this, you can have my belt. But like Rentaro's not happy with that, so he follows him, and then they kind of have an argument. Then you kind of get a little bit of Rentaro's backstory, which is, you know, you learn that he's an orphan. He was raised pretty much by the organization, so like he pretty much is willing to give his life to do what the organization says, and Rentaro is not about that, so he's like, well, that's just your opinion, basically. And he walks off. Then Reka Shindai, yeah, shows up and tells them where, hey, look, I can tell you where Caliber is, and Caliber is meeting with Sophia. And then, so Kento and Rentaro show up, and then Rentaro, being kind of a hard-headed idiot, but, you know, he's not thinking Killia because he's now trying to clear his father's name, saying, it's like, what? You guys basically are working together, and you're, like, basically setting up my father as the traitor. But current Caliber, who is Daichi Kamijo, yeah, Daichi Kamijo says, no, they're not working together, and it's like, and it's pretty much just like, all I'm doing is going after the truth. I don't care if I have to fucking sacrifice everything to get there. And then they pretty much have a fight, Yeah, I'm skipping some other stuff that's happening, but I'll loop back around to that. That's less important. This is clearly the A story, where it's they have a fight, and like Espada is going like full blast, trying to take out Caliber, and like he's trying, but like Caliber still holding his own. Then you know, Ken's or Espada powers up even more, and then he starts winning. But then Caliber pretty much uses his new upgrade, and he like kicks his ass, obviously, because like it took Kenzan's, I mean, or not Kenzan, Espada's update to even be able to freaking take out basic Caliber. And then he's ready to pretty much finish him off, but then Blades jumps in the way to take the shot. And it pretty much, and he basically says like, "Oh, I don't deserve to be a swordsman because I made a personal decision, right?" And then Kento's like, are you being, he's like all distraught about it and whatnot. And he's like, why would you do that for me? And basically it's kind of sad. It looks like Blades is pretty injured. Right, so that's pretty much the A plot. And it's basically like, oh no, is Blades dead? Like, I'm like, not this show. This show doesn't have the fucking balls to kill off Blades. I mean, they're setting it up well enough. I mean, it is getting around December, so crazy shit happens in December, but like, unlikely. I don't think he's gonna die. He's pretty injured. But I mean, also, it wouldn't really make sense to kill him off because like he has potential, right? And the other thing too is like him getting injured will kind of strengthen their bonds because like then like Kento and him will start trusting each other more. Or I mean, like, I guess like Rintaro already trusts like Kento, well enough, except in this situation, but he's still willing to defend him. But I guess Kento will start relying on him more, so it's strengthening their dynamic. It's a decent story arc. The fight was actually pretty good for the most part. I mean, they could have done some things a little differently to make the hits feel stronger, but I'm not really gonna shit on it. That's just like personal like action direction choices there. But basically, also I'm trying to keep this episode short because it's a good episode, but there's not too much to talk about. So like, the fighting is decent, the story arc is decent. Like what they're building up to the next arc, or basically like the friendship getting stronger or whatever, teamwork, makes sense. Mostly because I don't think Rentaro is dead, because like if he died, like holy shit, that would be an insane game changer. But like I feel like that's like unlikely to happen. Also, it's just one of those perfect setups of like, oh look, we just got the backstory of Blades, and oh look, he's pretty much fucking dead now. It's like, ah, god damn it, Toei. But if they're trying to fake us out, that's a pretty good way, because that's pretty much the trope. So they're like using the trope of like, oh no, he's really dead. I'm like, no, it's too early, I don't buy it. But yeah, they're like, Rentaro's, I mean, Blades is always a good guy. He's like the nicest person in the show. Like him defending them made perfect sense. Like Espada's actions made perfect sense too. What also happens is so like their story arc is pretty solid. Like you can see where like the foreshadowing for, or like the structure of where this arc is building to. So it's fine. It's really pretty good. It's kind of hard to like say anything else besides like, oh yes, that was competently done. But again, like it's better. Like it's hard to talk about because like, yes, good, do more of that, right? Because like it's better when you're watching it because it feels better than like talking about it. Yeah. Right. So I talked about the A story. Oh, I guess there's like a mini side story with like Sophia and May, where like Sophia gives May the key, because like Sophia clearly fears that like, oh shit, I might end up dead. So she gives May the key, which when she puts it in turns on the like main view screen. I mean, it probably does more stuff than that, but like right now it's like, here, just in case something happens to me, I need somebody I can trust who can run the base, who can handle this stuff. Gives it to May again, just further setting up that like May is gonna pretty much take over Sophia's job eventually. That was handled well enough. I mean, May's doing her part where she's like, calling Toma out on his like moping nonsense, sort of. I mean, he's not really moping, but he's kind of just more like, well, he's not really helping either. He's kind of just like, okay, he's fine. He's perfectly fine. It's like, no, he's not, man. Go talk to your friend. So like she's doing good. She's a good supporting character. Again, Sophia's just there asking questions of like, what are you doing? Why did you fucking turn into Caliber and try to impersonate him? What's your deal? Like, are you evil now? Is like, and then like she's just moving the plot along, and that's perfectly serviceable, right? Can't. Yeah. God damn it. So there is one point I do want to kind of loop back on, is like Reiko Shinda, like the way she knew where Caliber was, but it's more like she waited for the perfect time of like telling them, whereas like when Sophia and Caliber met. So I'm like, I wonder if she's like just setting it up so like the northern base gets destroyed or something. Like she's not entirely trustworthy. Like she's giving you information, but like that timing is a little suspicious, right? So she's up to something. Exactly what? Not sure, but it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, considering I feel like she's probably gonna have her own writers, so like maybe she'll be a villain, or she could definitely be an antagonist for sure. Maybe not like a final villain or something. No data. What the hell? Drop frame 0%, no data. Okay. We're back up. That's weird. What the hell? Okay. So yeah, basically I'm just gonna say the same thing just in case I got cut off. Rika Shinda, she's probably up to something. She probably timed that meeting to make Sophia seem more suspicious. Right? Like she's definitely potentially becoming like an antagonist. Like she's sowing seeds of doubt or something. I mean, maybe she really wants to know what the fuck is going on, but I feel like that timing's a little suspicious. Gotta keep an eye on her. Right. Okay. Okay, what the fuck, YouTube? I don't know what your damn problem is. Saying we're having problems, like, I am watching it. I am not dropping any frames. Anyway, so I'll just go over this quick just in case stuff happens. So Buster, Kenzan are in this episode. They kind of just show up to fight the grunts. Good, they exist. They did their thing. The weird thing is, like, Kenzan and Saber beat their monsters, but like something happens to their weapons, and then there's this like energy pillar. So I'm like, oh shit, that they're like defeating the monster. Like, I mean, obviously it furthers the villain's plans, because that's sort of the thing, is like the villains in the show are weirdly competent, where it's like doesn't matter what you do, this sort of still kind of get a win. But I don't know. They're setting something up, like they're trying to do some kind of ritual or something that's setting up, and they're using the other riders' belts. Maybe sort of like a wizard type thing, where they're trying to do like, the Sabbath again, or whatever. But like, yeah, it's like a similar magic type setup. I feel like Kenzan and Saber might have their belts sealed, or their like energy from their belts is being used to power like something that's opening a gateway or something. We'll see, but there's definitely something going on. And again, that's all set up by Legiel, the general. Like, he sends out the villains. Like, I wonder if his gimmick is like he's the one who sends out monsters that are more than one. Like, it seems like all the monsters he sends out are multi-form monsters, right? Maybe, not sure. But I mean, if that's the case, that's interesting. That's at least unique to him. Yeah, I guess Desast. Oh, Desast. Yeah, Desast is still running around, so he's not fully dead, even though Kenzan kicked his ass. Fights Buster. He's up to something too. Is mostly there to kind of distract Buster, and then he's like, okay, I gotta do my own shit now. So, okay, now we know he's not dead, but what exactly he's doing, I guess we'll find out in part 2. Yeah, we talked about Saber, or I mean Caliber. Oh, Tatsuo Daishinji. Yeah, he's in this episode too, and he's basically just telling the people at the base, like, stop fighting, right? Like, he doesn't like fights. Also, then he has to go out and fight, so he doesn't like actually fighting either. So I'm like, well, that's a personality thing we get. But again, like, he doesn't really do too much this episode. Right, and then it cuts back to Saber. I guess Saber just gets another power-up form thing because he's using Slash's, one of Slash's books, right? I don't like that finisher where they're all just stacking on top of the monster. That's honestly one of the lamest ones. But yeah, he's actually pretty sidelined this episode. Well, I mean, not sidelined, but like, he's pretty minimum. Like, they're clearly part of the C story, weirdly enough, this episode. But yeah, he's there. He's doing his thing. Like, the acting was pretty much decent for everyone, so that's good. Setup was good. Action was good. So, like, again, like, solid episode. I can't really say too much because, again, it's sort of like setting up much more future events. Like, either it's gonna get resolved in the two-parter, like the second part, or it's setting up for like a full arc, which, you know, that's cool. But like, definitely it's a lot less janky now because like we've been introduced to like all the major players, or at least enough of them. I mean, maybe some more people will show up later down the line, but like we've got enough people. We don't have to fucking introduce them, right? So like, the show is a lot less janky, which is good. I'm not sure if I would be like, okay, yes, I recommend you go out and watch Saber if you're not into Saber. I don't know I would say that right now. I'm just saying, for Saber, this is good. You know, as for a Rider show, this is like decent or average, maybe slightly above. Nah, it's about average. But yeah, solid episode. I don't really have anything to complain about, and because it's setting up so much stuff, or like alluding to, well, it's okay, it's like the first baby steps to like the next like major plot point setup, right? Like maybe who knows what Disaster's doing. Legiel, is he working together or is he doing his own thing? We'll see. Part 2, like, Caliber's clearly up to something. So we'll see for that. May and Sophia thing is definitely getting set up. Also, Reika, I think, is gonna be an interesting character. Like, she could be an antagonist for sure. Potentially. Yeah. Oh, I guess one last thing is like, Tassel something's going on with him too, because he's like, oh look, at the end when he's reading, it's like, oh look, he's almost here, and he gets up and walks to the door pretty much. So I'm like, oh, I wonder who that is. It'd be hilarious if like freaking original Caliber just shows up. I'm like, oh my god, that would be interesting. Unless it's literally like Blue just died and he's just gonna show up there. I'm like, that'd be weird. I don't think that's gonna happen. But like, yeah, it's potentially original Caliber showing up. We'll see. It'll be interesting. Show's decent. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I know this is kind of a boring podcast. Sorry, everyone. Like, that's one of the problems of having, like, decent episodes where it's like, well, it's good. Do more good. Just do this. Continue. It's like, what do you want me to say? I can't really theory craft too because, like, it's clearly just the first part of, like, something bigger. And like whatever that is like too hard to call right now. So I can't even theory craft, unfortunately. But anyway, I've been here rambling for 20 minutes now. I got nothing else. Saber was solid. Hope the next episode's good too. Finally had like an episode with a writer and director who've worked on the show before, and we didn't have to introduce a new character, so a lot less bumpy than Saber usually is. Hopefully this continues. But anyway, yeah, that's all I got for this week. Thanks everyone for joining me. We'll catch you next time.